gay people and trans people, very different experiences, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about whether this...
Well, trans people have gay experiences too. You know, we have been supporting you for a very long time. Most of my work was on marriage equality and stuff, not on trans liberation, because that's where the majority of the LGBT community was, right? So, yeah, all gay people are not cis necessarily, and all trans people are not straight.
No, there's two different experiences.
Independent
variables that have been
conflated,
it seems
because
to me
politically we need to work together because we need numbers.
Sure. I get that. I get the alliance. What I worry about is the conflation.
Yes, and that's a
problem. So that someone calls me an LGBT person, and I'm like, first of all, no ridiculous. Individual can be LGBT.
You're a member of the LGBT community because you're a G. That's all.
Well, I don't even know whether such a thing really exists, to be honest with you, in real life. There is a political coalition.
Yes.
But in fact, lesbians and gay men are not that socially integrated, if we're completely honest about it. They're incredibly separate. And also trans people are very rare. The vast majority of gay people never meet one.
Well, we're 1/8 the size. We are only 8% of the LGBT community.
Like, it's a very small...
Yes, it always is. And it's blown out of proportion. And it's like, the trans tipping point and this and that.
Yeah, but it might be better if we were not also told that it was trans women of color that gave us Stonewall.
That's historical revisionism. And I can understand why people who are really oppressed and whose lives are threatened and who die at the rate of 25 to 30 a year and nobody's doing anything about it would want to revise history a little bit to make them, to uplift themselves.
All right. Well, I just don't believe in lying. I think it's a good.
Well, no, I don't think
it's a good principle not to make things up. But also,
I was there on June 29th of 1969. Okay, I was at Stonewall.
You were at the Stonewall Inn the night.
I wasn't at the inn. I was on the street up the block. But I was on 7th Avenue. Yes, I was
on a date. What were you doing there?
I was taking my girlfriend, who became the mother of my two children, out to the Village Vanguard that night.
Wow.
And we got caught up in what was then called a riot because the media didn't cover this, right? The newspapers didn't cover it till Monday. So we had no idea that something was going on downtown.
Right.
So we just went anyway because we had tickets and we went. And so I got caught up in that. So my memory of what that looked like was unfortunately very much like that lousy movie that was made about it. It's a bunch of twinks from Nebraska that are out in the street, right?
And but that's true. I mean, the truth is they're all a bunch of young white gay guys.
If you look at the photos, there are some black kids there too, and there are some Hispanic kids who would come downtown from East Harlem or whatever and be part of that, but they were few and far between.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Sylvia wasn't there. Marcia came later. Marcia testified that she called Sylvia. Sylvia came down when the fighting was over. All these things, but people feel they need heroes and they want to elevate people. Yeah. I would not want to be lied to, but I'm different. Look, my generation transitioned not to become trans. We weren't interested in a third gender or a third sex or anything like that. We wanted to be in the world authentically.
As women or as men.
Right. This is the whole point of it. I had a life that was far more than my sex.
Yeah.
And so I was a scientist and a physician and a surgeon and a parent and all of these things. And this sexual thing, this difference, this dysphoria, what I then coined gender incongruence, that was written into the DSM-4 from DSM-4 to DSM-5. I wrote that. I was the lead trans writer of the Washington Psychiatric Association that wrote that. And the DSM was something that overdetermined my life, was always present. It never left my mind. I had to compartmentalize that out and focus on all the other stuff I needed to do to have a life in the world. But ultimately, my goal and that of all my friends from that generation was to become part of the world as who we truly were.
Yeah.
It wasn't to become trans and to become part. It's great now that you transition and you don't have to go looking for friends or a community or a safe space or anything like that. But if you leave it there, that's a problem. So I'm going to be on a panel on what's today, the 15th or 16th. Panel is, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday. Run by the Maryland LGBT Chamber of Commerce. How do we get more trans people into business, into the professional world? And I think that's a good thing, especially post-Bostock, where we have our rights. Nobody can discriminate against us legally in employment. We need to find ways to get these kids out of their bubble of queerness or whatever and get out into the real world. Isn't that what it's supposed to be all about?